Hi there, I'm Ahsan Shah, and you're watching me live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And today we are going to talk about emotionally unavailable partner signs and how to deal with it. It's a very frustrating and a stressful situation when your partner is not emotionally available in the relationship. Some of the common signs are that he would give you a cold shoulder, seeing if it makes you feel like that you are the only one trying and doing something in the relationship, and it doesn't matter whatever the situation, he would always find a way to put a blame on you, and there would be inconsistency in his or her behavior. Hey Katerina, how are you? Okay, thank you for joining us, and please do share it out. And there would be inconsistency in the behavior of your partner, and it, it makes you feel like that you are only trying yourself, and there is no empathy and sympathy and compassion of your partner for you, and you are the only one trying something. And there could be some top reasons for the emotionally unavailability of your partner is that perhaps your relationship has gone through some type of rough patch, and your partner is processing things, or some kind of extramarital affair or childhood traumatic experience has woken up, and or there could be something that your partner has gone through recently, that now it is time for him, he needs time to to go through those things. Or and when a partner is not emotionally available in the relationship, so how to deal with him? First of all, you have to find out the underlying cause of it, and secondly, earn the trust and confidence of your partner, that make him feel like that you are going to be there for your partner no matter whatever the situation is, and give him time. If he needs a space, then give him time and space, and that's how you can deal with it. If things are not work out, then breakup is the final and the last solution. And we are going to discuss various aspects of emotional unavailability of a partner, and signs and how to deal with it. And today we are going to have a roundtable discussion, and my guests are Melissa Amy. She has joined us from New Jersey, USA, and Paul from Iceland, but currently he is in Italy. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah,
I'm
Paul.
good,
Thank you, Katrina.
really good.
Yeah, and
Oh,
thank you.
Katrina,
Amanda has also
um,
joined us.
is that
Thank you, Amanda, for
Christopher?
joining us.
Right.
And please do share it out. And okay, uh, how is your visit of Italy? Did you love it?
Oh, I thought I died and gone to heaven. I
Yeah.
was surprised that I didn't go to the bad place, but
Uh,
it's really a good place to live in. It agrees with me a lot.
Yeah. I hope you would have loved the architecture, Italian architecture. It's just
Well,
amazing.
it's sort of like a mini Vienna. Vienna was designed by Italian architects anyway, so it's sort of a pocket-sized Vienna with palm trees. So I really like it, but the atmosphere is totally different. It's more free-spirited, and
So
people are
we
sort
should
of
get.
very real, very much on the surface. I mean, they're really, you know where you have them, really.
So I think we
Yeah,
should get back to the topic. Emotional
of course.
unavailability of your partner. And thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
Emotional unavailability of Melissa, I'm gonna start with you. How do you know that your partner is not emotionally unavailable or is not available in the relationship?
If you have
What are those signs?
if you have to
How
ask
do
the
you know?
question, if you have to ask the question, that's the answer.
I couldn't follow.
If you have to ask if they're emotionally unavailable, they're emotionally unavailable. So it's like
Okay, okay,
you know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Okay, you have asked the question. Well, no, your partner says everything is good, everything is perfect, but he is sitting there in the couch, waiting. You are there for him, but he's not talking to you the whole day. There's not a single a word from him. You have asked the person, and it happens in the relationship. People have gone through it. They ask the partner, but partner is not responding. But they feel like there's something wrong there.
Well, I mean, it's not as simple. If I was treating somebody or working with somebody, I would say, how long has it been going on? How long has this been happening? Have you tried to say your behavior doesn't match what your answer is? Here's an example. Let's say you say, here's an example. So you just give them a few examples, but after a while, you have to figure out, like, I keep doing the same thing and nothing's changing. So you have to make that, the person themselves have to make that determination what they want to do about it. There are many options of what you want to do about it.
Paul, how do you know that your
I
partner
think
is not is
I think you
physically
have to
there
go
but not
back.
emotionally?
I think you have to go back and try to remember what drew you together. What was it that attracted you to that person? And it's uncomfortable if you realize that you were drawn to that person in order to save him. That is also a possibility. Save him from his misery, if you like. Help him to get out of that hopeless negativity of being. I mean, let's face it, usually this is a very Nordic thing as well. The silent, strong man that never says anything unless he's really drunk. And then he opens up and tells all sorts of stories, what he's been through as a kid or whatever. So, I mean, when, let's say it's like 5 or 6 years into the relationship and suddenly he goes quiet, you have some information about his past. I mean, there is a past,
Yeah,
and you just have to go back and try to remember what might be the cause of that. And usually, you know, I think most reasonably intelligent people understand that this is something from the past that you knew actually, but you were hoping that you would sort of work through. I suspect that.
yeah.
Can I add something to that? Can I
Yeah,
add something
please
to?
do.
I think it's important for people to be real with themselves. So if you're asking this question right now, are you happy with the relationship? Are you being honest with yourself? Are you happy with yourself right now? Or the things that you want differently in your life, but now there's also people who are unhappy with their life can focus more on the relationship too. But so
Hmm.
there's a lot of questions a person needs to ask themselves before they look at someone else's behavior. So,
Uh-huh.
I would like to say that too. And also be clear about where you're at in your relationship, even considering, what you want to do, or, you're bringing that into it, because some people might not want to be in the relationship. So they'll sabotage every attempt, so that you're just, you're not being real with yourself. So make sure you're real with yourself.
Yeah. Yes, and there are
And,
some
and,
people
and
are
also that
watching.
savior
I,
complex.
I have a question. I have a question to ask to my audience. How do you know? Same question goes to for you because different people have experienced different things. So, how do you know that your partner is physically there but not emotionally invested, not emotionally there for you in the relationship? What are your experiences? Please share it out in the comment, and I would love to see your insight. I would love to get your insight. So, Melissa, uh, the next point is we are talking about the signs of emotionally not there. What do you think about no sympathy and compassion? I think it also goes out of the window when your partner is not there, emotionally not there, in terms of sympathy, compassion. There's no for you.
And I would again put it back on the person and be like, why are you allowing this? Why are you, if you're asking, having to ask it, what boundaries have you set? So you can start first with a boundary by having a conversation, and then by showing, hey, your behavior doesn't match your words. So you want to show, this is an example, this is an example, this is an example. You have to be clear on where you're at with the relationship. And the other person might be checked out completely because they're not invested in the relationship. They're just going through the motions. So these are really hard questions, but no one outside of the relationship can make those kind of assessments. The two people are in it. They have to make the assessment, not a therapist, or not like a person outside of the relationship. They don't know all the hidden. You can't be with a couple for 1 hour a week and think you can give them really hardcore advice. You're not, you only see their nice face they present to you and all, depending how candid they are to begin with, so you have to be real with yourself, and everybody's at a different spot and everybody handles things differently. And there's not one cookie cutter way. But these are questions you want to ask yourself, but you should also have good boundaries around you where people aren't disrespecting you. And also you might want to look at, is this a pattern in all your relationships, not just this relationship? Is there a similar pattern going on with many of your relationships? So, it's just a lot of questions, but it's good. You start asking the questions and you start making, you gain some insight into yourself.
Yeah. Here's a comment from Katerina, and she says, I believe it's a personal lack of self love. Do you think lack of personal love it could be the reason,
Lack
Paul?
of love.
Yeah.
Lack of love.
Lack of
I
personal
think
love,
it's on the
self love,
contrary.
self love,
I,
lack of self love.
it's lack of self-love, certainly. Yes, that's a problem. But I'm sort of fixated on there's so many relationships that seem to be based on one partner trying to save the other, and so
Yeah.
I think it's you're trying to drag somebody out of his misery by pointing out the positive things, and
Oh my
and
God.
then maybe 4 or 5 years on, you see it hasn't really worked. So the Florence Nightingale complex is not doing it. It's not making any difference because that individual. Because we keep talking about relationships as if it's sort of a conveyor belt of some sort that goes without a hitch, if you like. Two people perfect for each other, the perfect equals. In my opinion, there are no perfect equals in a relationship because, thank God, we are individuals. Even though we get married and have kids with somebody, we still are sovereign individuals. Thank God for that. So, whatever we want out of the relationship, it's every man and woman for him or herself, really, at the end of the day. And I'm not even going to mention the divorce rate to prove that. I don't have to prove that we are always individuals, no matter where we are and how we define ourselves. We can define ourselves all day as if we, married to our equals. I'm not buying that. And but the thing is, the danger of being in a relationship with a person that's um, emotionally distant and obviously discontent in some ways. I mean, there might be a depression, there might be a trauma, who knows? But should you
Yeah.
dwell on it too long? I mean, you went into this relationship with your eyes open. You even got married, and then several years into it, that person becomes distant and emotionally detached. So, yes, what are you going to do about it? I think, like Melissa points out, there are no advices coming from outside. It's
Yes,
a very private and personal thing to work through. And it's like Melissa says so brilliantly, it's nobody from outside can say or do anything to help out. You have to dig into the past and look into yourself. Because quite honestly, when I was in this serious relationship for 8 years, living with this guy, I discovered more about myself than I learned about him. The greatest
yes,
thing I got out of that relationship was that I got to know myself,
yes,
not him.
yes. And okay, Melissa, there's another point. But see, since we are talking about the signs that your partner is not emotionally available, and blame game also starts in the relationship, and that whatever the situation is, why you put the cup down, he would always, your partner would always find a way to put a blame on you.
Mm.
Well, that's a
Blame
pattern,
game.
and that would be a boundary issue for the person. You want to notice: are there people in your life who do that to you? There's people who do it to everybody around them, but then there's also people who only do it to you. Yeah, if it's the person you're with, that's pretty terrible since you spend a lot of time with them. I would think that'd be pretty awful. So, you might want to, just be aware of it, and you can start saying something. I mean, it depends. How long have you been in the relationship, and you're noticing now that they put you down? That's something you want to look into. You should know that. So that should be addressed. Of course, that should absolutely be addressed. Why would you want to be around somebody that you share a bed with and they talk down to you? You know,
Mhm.
does that make
Paul, there's
sense? That
another.
doesn't make sense.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And Paul, there's another is when you want to have a deep conversation about your future plans, and then your partner starts ignoring it, uh, avoiding it. Okay, it's not a good time, it's not the right time. Okay, we'll talk about it later. These sentences, these phrases also start coming along uh, when your partner is not there. Paul.
You mean about future plans?
Yeah, I mean about when you want to have a deep conversation with your partner, like future plans, how are we going to be together, just like the partners do with about the kids, about future plans. I'm saying future plans over and
Mhm.
over again, but my apologies. But deep
Oh, yeah.
conversation in the long term, when you think about it, then your partner starts avoiding it, and it's a very big sign.
I, I, you just have to be true to yourself. I mean, you, maybe it's my age or something, but I I haven't got time for bullshitting with another person about, and waiting forever for him or her to decide what he or she wants to do. I haven't got time for that anymore. I like the last 3 or 4 years, I've been planning to leave Iceland very decisively. I stopped listening to the local news stations. I didn't open the newspapers. I did. I was on Facebook a lot, talking to people from distant places to hear different point of views that had nothing to do with Iceland at all. And these were my plans to leave the country. Now, it so happened that I met a foreigner in Iceland that was interested in forming a liaison of some sort with me that turned into a love affair. But it didn't alter my plans to leave the country. And yeah, I wasn't decisive of where I was going, but I was definitely going to leave the country. And even to the day, I have decided for partly practical reasons. And it's not about the guy I'm with at the moment. I have just decided to settle down here. He happens to be from this place. But even if that sort of blew over or, whatever, I'm going to settle down here. And these are my future plans. It's got nothing to do with the relationship, to be honest. And
Yeah.
when I say this, I realize that perhaps part of me is not the marrying type in the normal way. I mean, I'm too authentic in a way. I've always been a bit odd or strange and different from others. I've always done things a bit differently, and
You
people
want to
have.
have
I mean,
adventure. You want to have
not
adventure in
exactly
life.
adventure. I wouldn't say adventure because, in a way, I'm a very dull person. I would be very happy to sit alone in my house near Catania in Sicily, surrounded by books and two cats and the internet. I I wouldn't need a normal family life at all. Not really. I would like to be in touch with people when I felt like it, but not because I was supposed to do it.
Agree. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, uh, My question was, I'm gonna rephrase it again. That
Did
yeah,
it real tough.
there are some relationships that people are there, but they are not emotionally there. They are not emotionally invested in the relationship. They don't talk about things that relationships and couples you supposed to talk about.
You know what?
What is normal for?
It seems like it's
I don't
stuck.
know.
It's stuck. So it doesn't matter. You can give a different example, different example. The root problem is
Hmm.
the same. So if they don't ask those questions, we're going to answer the same question the same way.
Mhm.
That's what's going to happen because it's the root problem.
No,
Why,
it's too early.
where are you
Yeah,
at with the relationship? Are you happy? You're not happy. Have you secretly wanted to leave for the last like 10 years and you're still hanging in there because of all these excuses you tell yourself? Or do you really want to work it out? You want to grow old with this person, you know? Or, I don't know, your kids left for college and now now you don't have the kids as a distraction. So you have an empty nest
Hmm.
situation. Or maybe you want to move to somewhere warm and they want to still be somewhere cold, or maybe you want to live in the city and they want to live in the country. There's many different factors. So
mhm.
all this stuff could be about the same root that person has to figure out and then figure out in the couple. But be honest with themselves. This is a time where
Yeah,
a lot of people are asking a lot of hard questions. Does
So
that make
when you're
sense?
talking, yeah, it makes sense. You
it
have to
does.
find the root cause of it.
Right.
What is causing the problem? Well, now it's time to reason. What could be the possible reason? Could extramarital affairs could be the reason? Paul, marital affair.
I'm probably hopeless in this discussion because I don't see this as a problem. I
You
just
don't see,
don't.
you don't see
I
marital
don't see.
affairs as
I don't care. I mean, if I let's say let's say I found another guy. I mean, this would not last, and I would find another guy that was into football, soccer, and he would go every Saturday at noon to watch soccer throughout. First meet up with the guys at the pub at 11:30, then go to the game at 2 o'clock, and then get really drunk and come home at 9 in the evening. Would I take part in it? Of course not. I hate soccer. But would that be the end of the relationship? No, I would have a different hobby. Maybe I'm not a marriage material or something, but I don't see this as a problem. I mean, as long as we are honest to ourselves and we are actually doing what we want to do. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about, you know, normal family life with kids that have to be, put, sent to nanny or whatever. I'm talking about just two adult persons living their lives. Yes, they're living together because they happen to love each other, but they don't have the same hobbies. They have different interests, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing in a way. As long as I mean, you have to remember, why did you get together? Why did you form this relationship? What was it that made it click at the beginning? As long as you remember that, you're okay. And if the respect is still there, I really don't see a problem. I just don't.
No.
As long as I'm allowed
Okay.
to have my cat and my books, I'm not really too worried about what my partner is interested in. But at the
What
minute he
about
says, get rid of the cats, I'm out of that, you know.
okay?
Understandable.
Okay, Melissa, same question goes to
Right.
you.
Uh,
Could extramarital affairs be the problem? Could be the reason, not problem. Could extramarital affair be the reason for the partner to not be there emotionally unavailable in the relationship?
if someone's having, yeah, that could be one of many reasons. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Someone having an affair, yeah, that would I would think would make you less
Yeah,
emotionally involved
distant.
in your relationship, considering you're putting your penis in another woman. Yeah, I think that would be a
Yeah,
little bit of a problem.
yeah.
Some
That
people
was
are
my
okay with it. I don't know. Like
yeah,
couples,
yeah,
they, I don't
yeah.
understand. But hey, that's also, wait, sorry, I want to say something too to that. It depends on the couple. If you both walk into a relationship saying that you're I think it's called polyamorous, that's fine. But you can't you expect commitment from a relationship and then you're doing something different. That's a huge violation. That's a huge, and then you're talking a body situation. That's a huge violation. But again, it's what's a priority to you. Certain people, they can work through it if there's enough things there, they can work through it, but depends on the person. But
Yeah.
that's one of them. There's
It
many
could be the reason.
violations.
Yeah, since you have a psychology background, so I'm gonna pose this question, one more question to you, about childhood traumatic experience. As Paul said earlier, there's always a past there. What about the childhood traumatic experience that just taken over him? Uh, all of a sudden, from nowhere, now he is drawn into the trauma. Could that be a reason?
It could be, but again, I would say that's a boundary for me because a lot of people can use their childhood trauma and completely torment their other person because they went through childhood trauma. That's not fair either. Did that person traumatize you? So you get to torture them, and now you can't be wrong in any argument. You're going to throw your trauma. That's what I like. I can catch that. That's manipulative when people use, or they'll say, I'm like, even online, I would argue with people and then they'd say, well, I got diagnosed with cancer. I'm like, what does that have to do with the argument? We're having a debate on something and then you're trying to make me feel like crap because you're diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah,
so it's the same kind of thing. So,
you using that card, you're using your personality
right.
as a
The
card
worst.
to get away. Yes,
The
to get
worst.
away from
That's
the
a little
conversation.
manipulative. So you want to
Yeah,
make sure that they're not, because you can have that. There is manipulative behavior with trauma. There is, if someone doesn't heal it. So if you're single, it's not if someone hasn't worked through their trauma, do you want to work through it with them? Be real with yourself when you're like, do you want to work through it with them? You might not want to, that's your,
yeah,
but that person's responsible for them to deal with their trauma, or they can then, and it is, if they're a healthy person, they'll be like, dude, like, this is really uncomfortable, this part, this, either talking in this or when you do this, it reminds me of this, just bringing up some trauma,
yeah.
but you
It's
have to be an adult
a
about
this manipulative behavior is
Yes.
very common because people do that. There's one more witness from the comment. A man says, "Oh, I was with a guy and that did that." Uh, exactly. People do that. They use their personal issue
it.
as a card to get away from the conversation, to avoid the conversation,
It's a
or
shaming.
to put the yeah to put the blame on other people.
I call it a shaming tactic,
The-
and I'm really, because just in my own experience, because a lot of times I get the victim culture, so I'm getting very, as I have to own my stuff, then I expect other people to own their stuff. I'm not going to take shame anymore, but I also can't throw shame, so I can't throw it, but I won't also accept it. No shaming.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Paul, your
Yes,
insight.
I think, you know, playing the victim card all the time, using childhood trauma. I mean, we've all gone through something that we don't like, that affected us and molded us into what we are. And, you know, I'm the first person to admit that, but I will never use that. To me, it's something to avoid. It's a learning. You will put through it to learn from it, to not repeat it. Really, that's basically what a healthy person would actually do with childhood trauma. And I've actually heard that from my mother. She said, "I never want you to suffer the same thing I had to do when I went through the depression, 1930s. I was perfectly dressed because my mother was a sewing mistress, but I had an empty stomach and I suffered from being hungry all the time. But I looked perfect, on the outside. So to her, that was, to enjoy, the finer things of life. That was the major thing. So she turned her bad experience as a child into something positive and joyful for her children. And now I'm talking about mother of parent children relationship, not partners relationship. But I think it applies as the same. And I've been at the receiving end of a partner that kept comparing his childhood to my childhood. And he was trying to make me feel guilty that my childhood was good and his childhood was bad. He almost made me feel guilty that I had a good childhood. That's how sick it was, really. And he played the
You had
victim
a
card, and I asked him to work it through, to see a psychiatrist, to start the work with a good, you know, therapist, but no, he wouldn't do it. So I think it's about, like Melissa said, being an adult in and owning your stuff, owning your past, and like my friend told me today, he's in the Netherlands now, and he said, I've decided to put my past into a box and close it. Because you don't erase your past, but you can put it in the box, close the box, and put it on the shelf. It's there, but it's not part of your present or future.
By the way,
And
I
and
don't
people
agree
just have to do
with this
it.
strategy. I
Hmm?
don't agree with this strategy that putting the past behind or put it in the bags or somewhere. It is a part of you. You have to change this strategy. You have to change. Look at your past and your traumatic experiences as not as a victim, but as a survivor. That you have been through those. You have to accept those things. They are part of your life. They have happened, and now you have. Melissa, you are better too. Uh,
Well, I would answer that they're an experience that happened to you, but they're not your identity. So if they carry as much power as you allow them to carry. That's if you're having flashbacks or anything like that, that's work. That's you're doing tools. You're learning how to reframe your mind. It's a lot of work. So I think that's what people don't realize when they get into a relationship. There's a lot of work that for you to be healthy in a relationship. There's a lot of work you need to do on your own. But there's all different types of what someone would consider abuse anyway. Everybody considers abuse. They have a different bar of what abuse is. So no person's the same. That's why we're having such a hard time in society that they want everybody to be lumped into one category and think one way and feel one way. You can't. Everybody's different. Everybody has
everybody,
the way they view the world that's different,
they have different
Well,
experiences,
I,
different backgrounds.
I have one thing. I have one thing to add to this. This
Please
is
do.
my problem, and this is why I have difficulty in discussing this, because I am not a survivor. I'm a winner. So it's
Yes,
not enough for me to survive my trauma. I'm going to win it, and I'm like Melissa said, it doesn't define me because I'm a totally different person. Whatever
and what
happened to me when I
yeah.
was a kid.
So my point was the people who talk about that they just put their trauma in a box and put it away. It doesn't work. You cannot just erase your past. things have happened. They are not, as you said,
You're
it's not
not you're
identity.
not
It's a part of you.
you're
Yeah,
you're not erasing it by putting it in a
yeah,
box.
Are
You're
you owning
accepting
it though?
it by
Are you
putting it
owning
in
it
a
or
box.
projecting
or
it? Are you owning it or projecting it out?
yeah,
And have you forgiven? Have you accept? Some people can't. They're still stuck in the angry phase and not accepting what happened. So there's many
Then the
stages you have to
victims,
go through,
yeah,
and you
then the
can't.
victims do that.
And the person
Victims
can't
do
heal
that.
that for you. The person you're with can't heal that for you, and don't torture them with it. That's very toxic.
And
and
survivors keep going back
Yeah.
to the trauma because and defining yourself as a survivor, that's defining yourself as a part
It's an
of the
experience.
trauma.
yeah,
It's an
yeah,
experience. I mean, I
But
understand if you were locked in a basement for 40 years, like, that like Nancy, I don't know, I'm not Duger. Her last name, I forget, Dugan or something.
yeah.
If you were locked
Okay.
in a basement, I can, but, you don't, why is it defined? Why is it with you all the time? Why is it with you all the time? You
mhm,
haven't processed, you haven't dealt with it. You haven't forgiven. Maybe you carry anger toward it's very complicated. It's not just about the one experience. Is there trust
Yeah,
issues now? Because there's a lot of stuff.
mm,
And and not even that you have to go through, can you heal it? And can you provide it for yourself? So I'm not even that big on the Freudian sitting on the couch and going over all these things that happened to you for the last 20 years. If you want to do that, that's great. But for me, I don't really find that helpful. I want to, how is it affecting me now that's preventing me from moving forward? That's all the thing I want to know. That's the only thing I want to know is something that I'm carrying from my past, and your past is many things and many
mhm,
experiences. So how am I carrying that now, and is that affecting the relationships I'm having? That's
yeah,
the only way I look at it.
mhm. Okay,
mhm.
I think we should, yeah, now getting away from our topic. Uh, I think we should discuss it later on how to deal with trauma in our next episode. Okay, uh, talking about emotionally unavailability of your partner and why your partner is not emotionally available in the relationship is a topic. And now we are talking about the reason your relationship has gone through a rough patch, and you think it's okay, it's past, and we are now reconciled. Our relationship has reconciled now, and we are better in terms. You are in a better position, but your partner is still processing those experiences, those rough patches. He's not there yet. Could that be a reason?
Who's cutting
Paul,
for?
Melissa, both of you.
There could be many I mean, because they haven't processed, they're carrying anger. Was that what it was?
Yeah. No, your relationship have gone through a rough patch. Now both partner have reconciled. They are connected back again. But one of the partner thinks that okay, is past now. The other partner is still stuck in that position. Is still processing the experience.
Well, either they're repeating patterns, either repeating toxic patterns in the relationship. They're not being honest. They're not being honest with themselves.
Paul.
Because either you're contributing positive or negative each interaction that you have with your partner. So your intention when you're doing it. Are you saying things because you're mad about something? Why are you bringing something up? You be aware of your intentions when you speak. What
Be
are you
aware
trying to
of.
get out of speaking? And
Yeah,
then, if
Mhm.
all these things you want to ask, even the same way how your thoughts are when you're saying things, there's a reason why you're saying something.
yeah.
Of
Is there a
course.
pattern
Paul.
of it? Sorry, I'm playing with my pencil.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Paul, your partner is still processing those experiences. You think you are out of the rough patch, but you are out, but your partner isn't. Is still stuck there.
Well, he will just have to do what he needs to do. It's you have certain input. You do try. You always put yourself into what you're saying. Like Melissa says, you have to think before you talk. And most of us, we actually subconsciously talk using our own experiences. I think it's very difficult not to do that. And I keep asking people who are, I mean, I have friends who are constantly miserable and very negative. And I mean, I keep repeating myself saying, it's a decision. It's a political decision to be happy, to choose happiness.
Right.
I mean, just walking through Catania yesterday, for instance, I just saw the beautiful things because I wanted to see the beautiful things. I saw the Nereum oleander in bloom. I saw the birds, the beautiful birds. I saw smiling children. But my partner said, "Oh, you can see now that this has become a poor area. You can see it from the houses." But I chose to see the positive things. It was my decision to do that. And we had this discussion tonight that being happy and outgoing is actually, yes, some of us are more open than others, admittedly, but it's still a choice what you do with your life, what you do with your eyesight, what you sport, what you're interested in. And it's really up to you. There's no therapist that's going to change you. Like Melissa said, you can sit on a bench for 10 years talking about your old traumas and nothing comes out of it because deep down inside, you're sort of feeding on this misery. And I'm really talking, I sound very cold and cruel
Yeah.
when I say this, but to be honest, you can't save some people. They just want to wobble in their misery. And even if it's your partner, you just have to think about yourself. Grab the oxygen mask and take a deep breath. You're not going to go down with that person. You have to think about yourself. Some people call it divorce. Other people call it separated. You can call it whatever you want. You can do whatever you want to save yourself. But I respect the individual who actually looks after himself, even if it costs that, oh, they're having a difficult time in their marriage because they're so different and blah, blah, blah. But it's about the individual. And you have to save yourself.
Yes. Yes, indeed, Paul. And now, how to deal with next final part before final second loss is how to deal with that situation when your partner is not there, emotionally not there in the relationship. First of all, I think you have to find out. I think while discussing the whole thing, reasons and signs, we have already covered that, but we are gonna now officially covering it. That you have to, first of all, you have to find the underlying cause of the problem. What is causing your partner uh, to not to be there in the relationship emotionally? Because without knowing or without recognizing or without realizing the cause of it, you can't rectify things. Melissa?
It depends on what there's a scale for different people. What are things that are a deal breaker? Like my dishes could be a complete deal, like how I leave my kitchen could be a complete deal breaker for another person. Complete deal breaker. And to another person, the dishes are like, she'll get to the dishes when she'll get to it. She's a great cook, or I do other things. So it depends on the person. So you have to be, you can't make everything a level, a red alert. Everything that you're not happy with can't be a red alert. But what are the most important things? And focus on what are the things that are important to you that make you feel fulfilled, that contribute to you as a person. You want to know that. And then, there's things you'll bend on and there's things you won't bend on for the way you want to be in the world. So I think if you're clear with that, then you could say, okay, I'm not crazy. I don't like baseball, but this person has this, and that. This works really well. But it could be you don't like baseball either, but all these other things don't work well either of the things that are important to you. So only you as a person knows that, And then you got to be like, what are you willing to do if this doesn't change? You have to ask yourself, not keep focusing on the other person. If I just get to change them, what are you willing to do if this never changes? Are you okay with that? Can you deal with it? Ask yourself that if you can or you can't. Just be honest with yourself. You don't need a therapist for that.
Yeah, find out the exact cause of it, then ask yourself that are you going to be or accept that situation? Are you going to own it? Yeah. Paul? Paul, I like your comment earlier. You said you cannot save some people. You have
Because
invested
I've been there.
everything.
I've been there. I've been trying to save my partners, and I now know that I can't.
Yeah, you can.
So
You have invested everything. You have put your heart, your soul, your energy, everything into the relationship. But you cannot save some people. I'm talking about from my own personal experience. The same thing happened to me. You just can't save them. You cannot change them. Melissa, you are right on this point that you have to ask yourself, are you going to, because this person is not going to change. So are you happy with it, or are you accepting it, the person as he or she is, or not? If you want them to change, they're not going to change. Or the only reason, the only uh, possible reason, or yeah, possibility you have got is to accept them, whoever they are. Are you okay with it? If you are, then you have your answer.
And that can always change too. There's not a solid, I think people want finality, or they want confirmation. You don't get that in life.
Yeah,
So I want to go back to too, that anybody at any time can change, and that's their right to do.
yeah,
And you have to respect that. You don't own another person. Another person doesn't own you. You
yeah,
know, it's very strange sometimes when I see with marriages, they're like joined at the hip, and they're almost like this amoeba. Like there's no personality separate from themselves. Like I find that a little strange as well. And if that works for you, great. But that's a clinginess, and that would be a really red flag for me, for somebody who got so clingy like that. Like, you kind of want somebody
taking out your
who's
taking
their,
out
I
your
know, now I'm
phone.
going off too. They're like someone who's your own person, like not trying to figure out, how can you guarantee that you're going to spend the rest, all these guarantees when you meet somebody, or even, no, there's no guarantee. You do the best. You hope, you don't start in something thinking it's not going to work out or whatever, but you can't put all this pressure on it.
Yeah. And there's
That
one
sounds
thing I would
needy.
like, yeah, it sounds needy. And there's one thing I would like to hear that you don't have to allow your partner, or to make your partner that he has to take you for granted. You just don't have to allow it. That that okay, you're going through that stuff. Okay, he would make you to do those things for you over and over again. You just don't have to allow it.
Yeah, and I think also people aren't being realistic, being realistic with nature too. What else do you bring to the table? Like if you have a
Yeah,
very low self-esteem and you're kind of like dull and you're depressed, and you're not really bringing a lot of joy into the home, then you want to put all these demands on it. That's not gonna work really well, So if you're gonna negotiate your boundaries, what else do you bring to the table?
yeah,
What else do you bring to the table? Like, I
yeah,
don't think people consider that too. Everything, energy, there's energy in everything, and people they're
yeah,
not really being honest about it. And they'll just say they're a victim. Well, not really. You didn't look good. You didn't shave your legs for 2 years. You
mhm,
don't make a good meal. You don't put any effort or self-care in yourself, and you're bitching all the time. Well, gee, what kind of draw are you?
yeah,
So all women want it, or even men, you could take it any way you want,
yeah,
but you're not bringing anything to the table, and then you're saying you're a victim. Well, not really. What deal was he getting out of it? He wasn't getting a good deal, so he's not going to
yeah,
put up with that. He's not going to go out of his way that way.
yeah. You just have to do the work by yourself. Do the inner work. You have to.
Well, it's a self-love. It's a
Yeah,
self-love.
self-love.
Self-love shows. Self-love is
Yeah,
attractive. It
yeah,
is.
It
It's not always
is
easy, but
very attractive.
the other stuff could be personality issues, and those are just, we're all different. But
yeah,
self-love is attractive.
yes.
Mm.
And final, okay, you have invested everything into the relationship, but things are not working out. Paul says you cannot save everybody. The final choice is breakup is the final option, and you just have to you just have to do it sometime. It's the hard step, but it's the one of the hardest things you have ever do is to the person you love is to get yourself away from the person that you love, that you really like, but uh, things are not working out.
And wait, I would say, not like getting away from something. It's very important the way you envision it in your mind. So where do I not like? Okay, you could be in the most miserable situation right now that you can't stand. Okay, I don't want. It's not a matter of you getting away. What do you want your life to look like? What do
Yeah,
you want to
Mhm.
be like? And every
yeah,
day, make a conscious effort to take steps towards that. Everything else will fall into place. But it really, the vision's with you. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to
yeah.
be? you know what's
What do you
what's
want to be?
what's great about you, what's interesting about you, and keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep doing
Focus
that.
on yourself. Focus on yourself. Self love. That I think is a good perspective. But I'm talking about when you like someone, and but things are not working out. You are miserable with each other, and you fight
Mhm.
all the time, but things are not working out. You cannot save your partner, so it's a difficult for you to get out. I'm saying it again. You say a
It's a
different
little
perspective.
repetitive
Yeah, yeah. You just have to
Well,
leave leave the relationship.
because I think it's the
well,
same it's the same answer.
relationships are repetitive, aren't they?
Yeah,
They don't have
yeah.
to be.
It's sort of like they don't have to be, but
To be.
you keep hoping that things will change, and and it's a slow process, obviously. So it depends on how long you're going to wait, like you say, Ahsan. And you think you've done everything you can, and it's time to sort of cut the cord and go separate ways. And it's never easy if you have real feelings. It's never easy. Oh, just walk away. Yeah, it's not just walking away. It's
It's
a
a very difficult.
process.
Yeah,
It's separation. That's pure hell. I can
yeah,
tell you from experience. And
yeah.
first, you're told that you're a free man, and then a month later, you're informed that you were only separated. I mean, that's one form of manipulation. So you
Yeah.
already seeing another one, and then you find out that no, you're only separated from the other guy. So what sort of a carousel is that? Sort of, I wasn't going to an amusement park, I was trying to rebuild my life, and then suddenly you get the news that we were only separated. Oh really? Oh, thanks for telling me. So it's the lack of communication. If you leave, if somebody leaves you because he's miserable with you, and then he changes his mind, and you're supposed to go along with that, like nothing's happened. And it's your fault if you like you pointed out before. It's about how far you can go in being treated like that.
Yeah,
You're in control. You have to own your part in
yeah,
it, like Melissa says, is something that you allow to happen. So you have to cling to that. I have
There-
decided to be happy in spite
there's
of
a
everything
freedom when you
else.
accept that. There's a freedom
yeah,
that comes with it when you accept that. I detach easy, so that's not like not, I mean, I'm not saying every relationship in my life I detach easy, but I can detach pretty easy.
I
Hmm.
was going to
I
say
know
that.
that's different for
Okay,
most people, but
I,
there's
I,
people out like me who are like that.
yeah,
Hmm.
I was
Like if
going to
someone's not
say that.
treating me well, if they're not positive in my life or not treating me well, I can detach. If
That's
the right
beautiful.
circumstances, yes, I can detach.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What are your final thoughts, guys? Paul, your final thoughts. Final thoughts when your
I,
partner is not emotionally unavailable, and signs and causes and how to deal with it. Your final thoughts.
obviously, you do try to find out why that's happening, if it's your fault or somebody else's, or maybe it's nobody's fault. Maybe it's something that's comes and goes. But you have to decide there's a time limit, because if you've decided to be happy, you cannot spend too much time with a person that doesn't show any emotional response to anything in the relationship. You can't allow yourself to be dragged into that abyss of I assume it's miserable. I mean, I assume that people that are emotionally flatliners, that they are miserable. To me, that's obvious. So you have to just. I'm not saying there's no patent solution to anything, but you have to know yourself, how much you can take, and then stand by yourself and leave, both either physically or mentally. You can stay in a relationship where your partner is emotionally detached if and this is not about finding another guy to sleep with. This
Mhm.
is more like spending your time in
With
strengthening your
you.
own self,
Yeah.
building your own image, and
Knowing
you
yourself,
know
working on
being into
yourself.
self-care, being into
Yeah.
self-care.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And Melissa, your final thoughts.
I would say first, what is your best image of yourself? Like if you think of like if let's say they were doing a movie about you, like let's say like all of a sudden you're this star, and what would be the movie? What would the movie be about? And think of yourself, the movie's only halfway there, so you want to finish the movie, and you're the star. You're the star of the movie. What do you want? What do you want to do in the movie? What do you want to look like in the movie? Where do you want to go in the movie? Think of it that way. And then so all around your life, think about how can you get that movie to play out? And is that person going to join you in the movie? Or if you stay with this person, is the movie only going to take place now? You're not going to travel in the movie. The movie's just here because that's the way this person is, just here.
Yes.
Or your friends around you, or what you watch. Everything you do is a step towards that person you want to be. Everything you eat, everything you do, everything you say. So to me, my biggest love is my future self.
Yes.
My biggest love in life is my now self, because my now, every action in the now gets me to my future self.
To the future self.
There is no Romeo at the end of my future self. He'll be there.
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
matter who he is. I'm not worried about who he is. I'm worried about my future self.
Yes.
So if you do that every day, and you can't just give the lip service, you got to do it. I've been doing it every day, and the process isn't overnight. You got to work at it, but it
Yes.
works. All right.
It's like the choices that you make every day, they
Right.
bring you closer to your goals.
Right.
And self-love, self-care, you have to do things for yourself that you love.
Right.
And when you do work on yourself, then I don't think you would have any problems in the relationship.
Like
And yes, sir,
also, if you want a guy who's smart, shouldn't you be smart? If you want a guy who's attractive but you haven't shaved your legs in 2 weeks, how do you expect a guy who's like, there's a matching hypothesis?
yes,
Or if you're only going for a shallow guy and just the looks, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy who's not that sensitive and not that bright. So,
yes,
these are many things you got to think about. But regardless, I say put that aside. Be in love with your higher self and work towards that.
yes. And I think we have discussed from various perspective and different insight from. Thank you so much, guys, for
All
commenting.
right. Thank you.
Jason, Amanda, Katrina, Jesse, uh, Riley, and so other people. So thank you
Riley,
so
I'm
much.
so
for
excited for you and Conan. Really, like that's
Yeah.
such big news for her. I can't even imagine. Like this has been such an ongoing thing for her. So I'm very happy for you. She probably left, but I'm telling her anyway.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for commenting us and for your insight. And thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us, for your wonderful insight and for your time. Uh, have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, midnight, or good morning, wherever you
Oh
are
my
in this
God.
part of the world. See you next
Thank
week.
you. See you next week.